In the game Hellblade, you follow a picked warrior on her journey to Helheim to rescue her lover. Senua, on her journey, will have to face many challenges and many enemies that include her past, avatars of Norse mythology, and herself. During Senua's journey, Senua is experiencing psychosis, the effects of her past trauma, self-doubt, and fear. Hellblade's focus is on the mental health challenges of psychosis. The game also includes themes relating to the dark night of the soul and Jungian psychology through actions and narratives of confronting our shadow, fears, and trauma. And in presenting these themes, the developers of Hellblade also explore the theme of control. Hellblade follows structures of the hero's journey. We don't enter in the beginning, we don't know Senua's beginning, but we are crossing the threshold in the opening of the game. Senua has already gone through the trials before and has failed, except this time she has more resolve and cuts off all chances of turning back. Before crossing the bridge to Helheim, Senua is tested. She is tested by avatars of Norse mythology, Surt and Valravn. And once she crosses the bridge, she is met with an adversary who she cannot defeat. In order to build her strength, she goes through more trials, eventually acquires the legendary sword, Grammar. This sword is what she believes will give her strength to vanquish her foes. When she enters Helheim, she is entering the belly of the beast, the innermost cave, and she goes through more challenges before facing off and slaying the beast. Once she slays the beast, there is a sense of courage, self-confidence has won over self-doubt. Trauma has been addressed. Fear is diminishing. The reasons for fearing the dark is slim to none. The voices in Senua's head are now beginning to believe in her. The final challenges, and that is her meeting with Hela. She never defeats Hela, but is slain. But the game actually says that's alright, that's actually part of the story. Senua, in her death, also releases the tension that she held before. There is an air of acceptance and rebirth. And she says goodbye to her love, Dillian. Throughout her journey, along with seeing the effects of psychosis in the mind of a human being, there are also themes of Jungian psychology, specifically the dark night of the soul. The whole game of Hellblade is the dark night of Senua's soul, where she meets terrifying creatures of her unconscious mind, specters, illusions, and fears personified. The darkness is constantly referenced through the story as constantly watching, constantly waiting for her most vulnerable moment. But she isn't alone. She has a guide, Druth, who is not there in person but is always with her as another personification, one that gives her riddles and encouragement, all the while feeding the viewer with chock-fulls of lore and stories of Fenrir and Sigurd and how Odin gained his wisdom. There are also lore stones that hold runes, symbols that are present in Senua's mind to guide her, to inform her on her journey. There are also themes of spiritual alchemy, specifically the 4 stages of spiritual alchemy. And those are Nigredo, Albedo, Cinchinitas, and Rubedo. These words in the same order mean blackness, whiteness, yellowness, and redness. Each stage is part of the process for spiritual transformation. The Senua's story focuses on the first stage, the beginning stage, Nigredo, the stage of confronting the unconscious and the aspects of her shadow, the trauma and the fear and the self-doubt that have lingered and constantly convinced her that she wasn't strong enough. This process is the process of breaking down, burning away those aspects. In the book, A Psychology of Alchemy, Hillman, the author of the book, explains the stage of Nigredo. For any alchemical substance to enter the Nigredo phase and blacken, the operations must be dark and are called, in alchemical language, vitrificatio, putrefactio, calcinactio, and interratio. That is, the modus operandi is slow, repetitive, difficult, desiccating, severe, astringent, effortful, coagulating, and pulverizing. All the while the worker enters a Nigredo state, depressed, confused, constricted, anguished, and subject to pessimistic, even paranoid thoughts of sickness, failure, and death. He also mentioned that, as a non-color, black extinguishes the perceptual color world. Black dissolves meaning in the hope for meaning. By absenting color, black prevents phenomena from presenting their virtues. Black's deconstruction of any positivity experienced as doubt, negative thinking, suspicion, undoing, and valuelessness explains why the Nigredo is necessary to every paradigm shift. After the first stage, the next stage, albedo, is the stage of purification and cleansing. The next stage following is the stage of further integration of consciousness and unconsciousness, merging both halves of the psyche and growing an awareness of the self. And rubedo, or redness, is the final stage of transformation, and it's the stage of completeness and oneness of the self, the realization of the higher self. My experience and understanding of the game was full of symbolism and ultimately a message of encouragement. The game is framed in a way that tells one story and with three perspectives. Senua's perspective, your perspective as the viewer, and the perspective of the narrator. There are three people who are present on this journey, and you get this through the audio and visual cues and symbols. In the early stages of the game, there is a sense of chaos immediately in the introduction. Senua is not in control of any aspect of her life. There are the Vikings and the darkness and the voices that are constantly present in Senua's journey. And because of this, she is constantly in a state of fear. But once the beast is defeated, the state of entropy changes to one of order and control. And the first signs of it show after Senua defeats the beast and she faces her past. Her awareness inspired control and courage. She began to grow in confidence that she needed for the final battle with Hela. Even after losing the battle, the final battle, Senua still recognized the presence of the darkness. And as the voices said, in the ending, but something's different. Everything is still stable. There is a sense of control. Senua is in control. She has regained the control of herself and her mind. She is unified in body, soul, and spirit. And because of this, the voices in her head no longer seem to be chaotic. They no longer put her down. They no longer trick her, but instead they are helping her. They recognize who is in control. It's a simple journey, but one that's very well made and very informative, with the message of connecting with those who are going through psychosis or trauma or anything else. And it's an impactful story in its climax and its resolution, inspiring the viewer with words of acceptance and symbolism of rebirth, but not before building courage through helping Senua face her trauma, her self-doubt and fear, by slaying the beast that lies in the innermost cave. One thing that I didn't initially catch on to was the lyrics in the main song of the story. Just Like Sleep by Passarella Death Squad. The theme of the music is uplifting, and I didn't catch it, I didn't think about it until afterward because, well, the mood of the song and the timing of its placement is impactful and encouraging. It breathes courage into the viewer and Senua. In the final battle leading to Hela, when Senua is surrounded by all her foes, hordes of monsters and enemies of various sizes and strengths, it is one against many, and yet there isn't any fear, there isn't any doubt. This is something that has made this one of the most impactful video games that I've ever played. One that will likely stay with me for the rest of my life. I think the game summarizes Senua's journey and the journey of the viewer with this simple quote: "The hardest battles are fought in the mind." If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment down below.